Just 3 more days until the Eagles are on the clock. Who will they select on draft night? Today we'll provide a full mock draft and breakdown for each pick with a special guest. What is going on, everybody? Welcome into A to Z Philly, your number one home for Eagles coverage. Hit the like button if you enjoy this content. Be sure to subscribe and also hit that bell down below. That way you do not miss any of the coverage. Today we are back and we have a special guest joining us. RB bringing you the latest from the Linc, but also James Foster of A to Z Sports Film Room. He is the draft guru, the expert, the breakdown analyst, and he has done some detailed, extensive work leading up to the draft for the Philadelphia Eagles. And, well, we'll have to wait and see what he thinks the Eagles are going to do with their picks. Obviously, I have my beliefs, but it'll be nice to hear from someone who has really studied this day in and day out. But before we jump right into it, shout out to the sponsor of today's video, BetMGM. Enjoy all your favorite sports like never before at BetMGM. Sign up using code ATOZPA and receive up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you do not win your first bet. When you register with BetMGM, you'll get instant access to a variety of parlay selection features, live betting options, player props, and daily boosted odds specials. And with BetMGM at your fingertips, every play and every game matter more than ever. Find out why BetMGM is the king of sportsbooks. Sign up today with bonus code ATOZPA and receive up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you do not win your first bet. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 years of age or older to wager. Pennsylvania only. New customer offer. Bonus bets expire 7 days from issuance. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, let's go ahead and turn it over to the A to Z Sports Film Room draft expert, James Foster. James, thank you for joining the show, man. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure you've had a lot of late nights getting ready for these draft picks and all the breakdowns. So everybody's kind of highlighted on those first 2 picks coming up at number 10 and number 30. And obviously you provided a mock draft, but in terms of your needs for the Philadelphia Eagles, maybe I know a little bit more about what the team's looking at, but you're the draft guy. So at number 10, you have them selecting who and why?
At number 10, I have them taking Christian Gonzalez out of Oregon. For me, I'm looking at getting a long-term replacement for Darius Slay and James Bradbury. And Christian Gonzalez is my highest graded corner in this class. He's pretty much a premier athlete in every aspect. And you look at his movement skills around the field, he's just so comfortable and under control at all times. A lot of times with corners that are playing a lot of press coverage, you really get the sense that every step matters and it's like one false step and they're getting beat down the field. With Christian Gonzalez, he can kind of just shuffle his feet, really as he pleases because he's such a fluid athlete. And I really think that he's scheme versatile. He can play, in any sort of scheme, whether it's press man, off quarters. And so I think that having Christian Gonzalez in there to develop under 2 great corners and then step in for one of them when they leave in the next couple of years, I think that's where I decided to go with the Eagles draft, just because I think you could be at number 10 sitting with the number 1 corner still on the board. And I know offensive line is another big need. And so I think like Paris Johnson Jr., Peter Skoronski, those are 2 other good options, but I went with Christian Gonzalez.
I think it's a solid pick. And, looking at the Eagles draft history, they love to go in the trenches. That's usually the first option. That's what Howie's MO is. But obviously corner and safety have been a huge talking point over this draft process. Now, when they somehow found a way to bring Darius Slay back, I think more of the focus kind of shifted to the safety position. But Gonzalez, Witherspoon, all those guys are guys that have come up in draft talks. Even some of the other positions that the Eagles may look at, defensive line. Like I said, Howie loves to drill the trenches. Obviously Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith. Howie, over the last couple of years, I'll tell you, has gone for the big names from the big schools. He loves the guys that have been in the championship games, that have won, and it kind of has served well over the last couple of years. I'm sure we'll get to a couple, different scenarios, but say that they stay at 10 and they're looking at defensive line. What do you think about Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, and a couple other guys from the big schools?
Yeah, I think they've done a great job really at a lot of positions of getting those backup plans in the building and developing for when guys start to move on. I think you look along the defensive line, like Milton Williams had an underrated season last year. And I think that, he can be ready to be a high quality starting defensive tackle for them. And then to get Jalen Carter to be that Fletcher Cox replacement, my NFL comparison for Jalen Carter is Fletcher Cox. Having him there with Jordan Davis, who's his former teammate, I think it's a good environment for Jalen Carter to get, the most out of his development. And so I think that would be a slam dunk pick to take Carter. And then as far as Nolan Smith, he's someone that I've been a lot higher on throughout this draft process. Really, the one negative with Nolan Smith is arm length and size, but specifically arm length. I think you can get away with being undersized as a pass rusher in the NFL, but it's harder to do that if you don't have that length to really separate yourself from blocks. And so that's my one concern with Nolan Smith. But, he's got a refined pass rushing skill set. He was probably the best run defender in the SEC last season, regardless of position. And he just has a relentless motor. And so you really see the shades and flashes of Hassan Reddick with Nolan Smith. And that's a pretty common comparison for him, because Hassan Reddick's one of the only players of his size to have any notable success in the NFL. So that's kind of the player that everyone goes to. But, I think that Nolan Smith or Jalen Carter would both be great picks for them at 10.
Yeah, absolutely. And you make a good point there. This kind of seems like one of the last years where they push all the chips into the middle of the table. And it's like that final, okay, let's try to go back to the Super Bowl before they do a little bit of a retooling. They got guys on 1-year deals back, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox. So I do think those would be good replacements. Now, let's shift it and say that they go in the back end and they go with a safety. Obviously, C.J. Gardner-Johnson left, and they were able to pick up a couple guys like Edmonds from Pittsburgh, and they have Reed Blankenship. But I think Eagle fans know deep down, if they want to make another Super Bowl run, they're going to need as much depth as they can get on the back end. And there's been talks about a Budda Baker trade. I'm sure, maybe Howie Roseman is thinking about going out getting a day one starter, or, a veteran player, a guy that is automatically going to be in there, between two Pro Bowl corners. But let's just say they go in the draft. Who's your top safeties in this class, or maybe the top guy you're looking at that could be available either at number 10 or number 30 for the Eagles?
Yeah, I think at number 10, safety should probably be out of the question. This is a really bad safety class.
Yeah.
And, on top of that, you've got the positional value thing with like safeties not getting paid that much. It's not really worth it to spend a top 10 pick on someone unless it's like an elite talent, which I don't think there's any in this class. But my top safety is Brian Branch. And I have a late first round graded on him. He's only missed 4 tackles in his entire college career, and that's on like 150 tackle attempts. You see safeties that miss that many tackles in a single game. And so he's so reliable, just and a hard hitter in the backfield, but then he also has the speed to cover quick, fast slot receivers down the seam. And so I think that Brian Branch, specifically within the Eagles scheme, would be a really good fit, playing that sort of split safety coverage where he's, converting a lot of his assignments to man, but he can also be a good run defender. And then my second ranked safety is Antonio Johnson out of Texas A&M, who's more of a second round player to me, kind of stiff in terms of lateral movement skills, but he's a great run defender, really good ball skills, does a great job at the catch point of getting there under control and breaking up passes. So I think those are my 2 top safeties. And if the Eagles decided to go with one of those 2 at 30, I think that would be a solid pick.
There's a lot of hype around Bijan Robinson right now as the days leading up to the draft. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about it. I still don't believe that Howie Roseman would draft a running back in the first round. The Eagles never pay their running backs on a second contract. And even though Bijan seems to be a game changer, I don't think that's what Howie Roseman is going to do. But you never know. You never know with a GM like Howie. So is Bijan Robinson a home run pick? Do you think he could survive in the Eagles offense?
Well, I think he could survive in the Eagles offense for sure. And I think if the Eagles took him, he would, probably be rushing leader favorite. I think that the sky is the limit in terms of his production and his success. But in terms of the value of the pick, the way I look at it is the Eagles are in such a great spot with their roster construction to where, this year in the draft, they're kind of playing with house money and drafting for future needs. The way that they got to this point is by targeting high value positions early in the draft. And so, I think, like you said, it does kind of go against what Howie Roseman has done historically. And so I'm not sure that I see that happening realistically.
Yeah, I would agree. Where do you have Bijan ranked for the heck of it? Where do you think he'll go?
I have him ranked 12th. I think he'll probably go around like within the 10 to 20 range. I factor in positional value with my grades. So it's kind of difficult to balance sometimes when you have a player like Bijan, who's the best running back that I've ever scouted.
Right.
And so I have nothing but good things to say about Bijan Robinson as a player. It's just, it's hard to add value from the running back position because so much of your production is dependent on blocking. And then obviously you've got the short shelf life in terms of how many hits they can take over a career.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. So let's say the Eagles go with Christian Gonzalez, corner at number 10. Now, number 30, I think could be a wild card. I mean, the Eagles had the 30th pick years ago. They traded out of it. Howie's always looking to improve for the future. Like you said, it's kind of a wild card type of thing this year. But if they stay at 30, where do you have them going and why?
I have them going with defensive lineman Keanu Benton out of Wisconsin. I think he's one of the best pure three techniques in this class. He's my second highest graded three technique defensive lineman, second to Jalen Carter. He's got an explosive first step. He has a lot of pass rushing moves at his disposal. And they were kind of playing him out of position in Wisconsin. He was playing a lot of nose tackle where he was having to anchor against double teams and stuff like that. And you see him get pushed around sometimes in those situations. So I think he definitely is, someone that you want lined up outside of the guard. But Keanu Benton and I keep drawing a blank on the other Milton Williams, Keanu Benton, Milton Williams. I think that's a great defensive line group, along with Jordan Davis as the nose tackle. And he's a player ranked 60th on the consensus board. So I am a lot higher on Keanu Benton. I have him at 33 overall. But once you get to about the 25th pick in this draft, like everyone's been saying, it could really go in any direction because there's not a ton of certified top end talent. And so teams at the back end of the first round are going to have to start reaching into their second round grades a lot more than they normally would. And you're probably going to see some surprising names go off the board in the last few picks of day one.
Yeah, I mean, again, Howie Roseman is always looking to improve in the trenches. So I would tend to agree with you. I think somehow, some way he's going to pick up someone on the line, either on the offensive side or defensive side. So then the Eagles don't pick until number 62. So kind of, a little ways to wait. And then this is their last pick before number 94. So at number 62 and number 94, I would expect Howie to pick up some depth pieces. I mean, he's picked up some average players the last couple years in the mid rounds. But Howie seems to find some gems once in a while. So who do you have him going with in the mid rounds there?
I've got the Eagles going with Jartavius Martin out of Illinois, and he goes by Quan Martin, I think. But this is kind of a swing for the fences at safety. Martin played about 60%, 70% in the slot for Illinois last year, but they would occasionally move him out to deep safety. And he just has incredible closing burst. I think he has the lowest recorded time for a 10-yard split of any safety in combine history. Really good 40 time, 44-inch vertical. So he's so explosive and he can play single high and he has the range to go sideline to sideline. But, he's also a physical run defender. Everyone on Illinois' secondary, him, Devin Witherspoon, they're all just dogs against the run. And I think he has the potential to develop into a top 10 caliber of safety. He is kind of unpolished, I would say. He's a little bit inconsistent about he'll turn his hips in the wrong direction, and he has the fluidity to make up for some wasted motion and false step, but he's going to need to clean that up at the next level. And then he's also a player that's constantly looking to lay the big hit, and that results in a lot of, really big hits, but it also results in a lot of missed tackles. So just some things like that he needs to clean up with his game, but the natural talent just pops off the screen with Quan Martin. And he's my third ranked safety. And so I think third round, maybe late second is where I'm starting to think about Quan Martin.
Gotcha. And then number 94, who do you have them taken and why?
So at 94, I went with Tank Dell. If I was drafting for every team, Tank Dell would not make it to 94, but being a little bit undersized, I think there's a chance that he slips. With that being said, he's arguably the best route runner in terms of outside receivers in this class. And as a smaller player, a lot of people are going to say, oh, he's going to have to move into the slot at the next level, but he's practically untouchable at the line of scrimmage. He's just so twitchy with his movements. If a corner throws up a punch to try to get a hand on Tank Dell, he's just shifting his body back and then exploding downfield. And, 2 consecutive seasons with 1,300 yards. The tape with him just speaks for itself. He's just a good receiver that happens to be in a really small body. But I think specifically with the Eagles, I really like the fit. When we think about, moving him into the slot and getting him matched up with those safeties, slot corners that are going to be slower and less athletic, I think he has a chance to really cook with, how much attention AJ Brown and Devontae Smith are going to be getting on the outside.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. And Howie has picked up some gems late in the draft when it comes to wide receiver. In fact, a couple of them will be battling it out this camp. Quez Watkins had some comments recently, so definitely something to keep your eye on. And then we'll go to the end of the draft because, again, they don't pick for a while. Pick number 219 and 248. Who do you have them selecting, and what are the value of those picks?
So at 219, I've got them taking John Ojukwu, which is a left tackle out of Boise State. And, I definitely can see the argument that they should have gone with offensive line earlier. And I think in the real world, when we're doing trades, ideally Howie Roseman would want to trade back one of those early, top 4 picks and get some draft capital in the mid rounds. But Ojukwu has 51 straight starts for Boise State at left tackle. He's one of the most powerful offensive linemen in this class. He had really good testing, a great short shuttle, which is one of the most indicative telling drills for offensive linemen, because it really highlights a blocker's ability to, slide their feet in the way that they would in a pass set. And, he's got the length, he's got the frame, everything that you want to, build an offensive tackle from scratch. And I don't think his technique is that unpolished, but with the coaching that he's going to get in Philadelphia, which I'm sure they say about every offensive lineman that the Eagles draft, but I think that he could really benefit from some, elite coaching, because a lot of his issues are just like hand placement, technique kind of stuff. And so I think he has a chance to be a really good tackle.
Yeah, absolutely. And Philadelphia is the place if you want offensive line coaching. They have, I'd say, the best in the league in Jeff Stoutland. The guy turned Jordan Mailata, into a professional who made a lot of money from playing rugby in Australia. So 248, who do you have them taking, and what do you think about this pick?
Yeah, so at 240, I'm looking at the linebacker room, and they lost TJ Edwards. You've got Nakobe Dean, who didn't play a ton last year. So a lot of questions at off-ball linebacker. And I went with one of the more underrated players in this class, in my opinion, which is Jeremy Banks, linebacker out of Tennessee. He has 126 tackles over the last 2 seasons for the Vols defense. He's a hard hitter. He gets involved as a pass rusher. He's got some good coverage skills, pretty good size, but he's also got the hip fluidity to stick with guys in man coverage. And, he's a signal caller, kind of quarterback of the defense type that's going to get everybody lined up in the right spot. And he was on my radar as more of a 6th or 7th round guy. And I know I've got him going in the 7th in this mock, but I have a 4th round grade on Jeremy Banks. And he proved at the combine that he's an NFL athlete. He had a great performance there, really, good numbers in pretty much every drill. So I think whichever team gets Jeremy Banks in the last couple rounds of the draft, I think is getting a major steal.
I wouldn't mind seeing how we go at the linebacker room. I mean, he's picked up some guys late before, or even undrafted, who have, turned out to be valuable pieces in Super Bowl runs. So we'll have to see how it plays out. What I do know is I'm expecting anything on draft night. I think, Howie's ready for the unbelievable. I think, last year he goes out, he makes a huge trade on draft night. I think we could kind of see the same thing again, given that the Eagles are in a ready to win now type of position. But if they do stay at these picks, I do hope they target some of the players that you've evaluated, because they seem to be good fits with this team.
And you never know. I mean, the Titans might just turn into the Eagles farm team. We might give you guys Jeffrey Simmons.
Or Derrick Henry.
Solve the defensive line problem.
Oh, that'd be great, man. But hey, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your insight with us and your wisdom. And I'm sure you have a lot of work to do still to get ready for the draft, man.
Anytime. Thank you.
So let us know where you think the Philadelphia Eagles will go in this draft. Give us your picks down below in the comments section. As always, appreciate everybody for tuning in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And with that being said, I will catch you all on the next one. Peace.